Okay, good evening everybody for the Community Leadership Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting on the 15th of October 2024. Welcome to all the committee members and also special welcome to all our visitors who I'm sure we will come to during the course of the meeting. So item number one is apologies for absence and substitutions.
Chairman, we have apologies from Councillor Doyle and there is no substitution for her.
Thank you. Item two is the minutes of the last meeting. The committee is invited to confirm the minutes of the 23rd of April meeting as well as the 17th of July meeting. The 23rd of the April minutes were circulated to members of the committee in an email on the 8th of October from the Committee Services Manager, Ian Ford. They were also circulated as part of the council agenda pack for the meeting on the 6th of August 2024. So can I sign those as a true record? All those in favour? Thank you. I would just remind everybody, item number 3, which is declarations of interest. Obviously, council invited to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or personal interest and the nature of it into relation to any item on the agenda. Item 4, questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 38.
Chairman, on this occasion there are no questions.
Thank you. Okay, I now intend to take item 6 first and then we'll return to item 5 afterwards. In that way, we're not unduly delay the range of individuals who are attending tonight while we discuss item 5. For the committee members, we can have that discussion after they have been released, if that's the right word. Okay, so I believe that Sylvia Gentleman from Active Essex would also make a presentation to the committee as part of this inquiry. Welcome, Sylvia.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we're going to take.
Oh,
Aaron
sorry.
first,
Yeah, sorry.
and then
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. How could I forget? Yeah, I'm going to go to Mick first as the portfolio holder to introduce the strategy. Councillor Barry. To introduce the strategy, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you to the committee for inviting us today. You will have, obviously, a number of documents before you, which I'm assuming that you've all read, and that we will have some questions to address in due course. But if I can just say that the strength of the strategy is evident by the people who are sitting along this part of the table here, that the strategy has been written from a very comprehensive consultation, a very comprehensive consideration of the evidence of research, and we've incorporated and integrated a lot of what national governing bodies have been saying and doing in our district. We've built on that, and we aim to take it forward over the next 3 or 4 years. So the strategy has been, as I say, comprehensively discussed, and there's been a lot of community engagement throughout the district. We've spoken to a lot of organisations, clubs, sporting bodies. So what you have in front of you is a document that is a working document. It's obviously got some timelines, it's got some action plans, but it is, in my view, It's an organic document that will be constantly reviewed. It will be constantly discussed and engaged with other organisations, as I say, some who are sitting along this table. But there will be a lot of community consultation going forward. So I think that it's as comprehensive as it could be just at the moment, but it's not the finished article, and it is a work in progress and it's a working document. But you will see that there are a number of action points attached to the strategy, to the various sections, but there are also some key milestones, and the strategy is about delivery. This isn't just about a discussion document that sits on a shelf. This is about delivering some, the main aspects of this. So we've already commenced, if I can say, one of the main aspects that I've been very clear that I want is, in terms of delivery, is the appointment of a community sport and activity manager. And that is in train. We are discussing funding arrangements for that post. We have a job specification, and we're hoping that that will be taken forward, quickly. We've also been in discussions with consultants about the possibility of an active wellbeing centre. Tendering, we had a full day workshop last week just on that particular aspect. We've also we've started some procurements about new building management system at an air handling unit at Walton on the Naze. There's some grants there. We're going through, there are some funding applications in the pipeline for up to 5 new play zones in the district. We've got discussions again, I think, coming up next week. The strategy was only passed through Cabinet on the 20th of October. We're in discussion with partners at the university about how we might monitor and evaluate how this strategy is implemented. So I think overall, it's a really good starting point. We've had some really positive feedback from our partners, from Active Essex, from Sport England. You will have had the supplementary report from Sport England about the strategy, which I really welcome. It's a very positive feedback from them. So overall, as I say, I think this is a good starting point. It's something that the district badly needs, and I think looking forward, certainly through in 2025, we have got some activities planned. There's a launch conference for the strategy early next year. We're hoping to have some sporting awards towards the end of the year, and obviously we're hoping to implement some of the local community events that are indicated in the strategy. So that's where we are. I think we're in a very good place, and I'd welcome any questions that you've got.
Thank you. I think that obviously this is a major new strategy for the council, and something that the overview and scrutiny have been pushing for some time. So we are really pleased that this strategy, very comprehensive strategy, has been presented now. Lee, I don't know whether you'd like to come in on the back of that.
I'd just like to support what Councillor Barry has said about the importance of this document for the council. I think that what's really interesting about the strategy is it seeks to shift the way that the organisation thinks about sport and activity. Obviously, the facilities remain incredibly important, and we're very proud of the sports facilities that we have in the district, and we're very proud of the increase in memberships that we've seen in the last few years as a result of the way that they've been managed. But this strategy also talks, as Councillor Barry has said, about the real importance of the community based sporting activity, and that actually, although there's 600,000 visits to the facilities, the leisure facilities in the district that the council runs, there's obviously many thousands more engagements in terms of whether that's walking or cycling or playing football, or those kind of top activities, swimming, that exist in the district through community groups, and that this strategy is an opportunity to focus on those as well. And the community sport and activity manager is a way of facilitating that additional activity. And it's about being able to do sport and activity wherever you are in the district, linking into your local community. So I think it's a really exciting time as a result of that. And again, as Councillor Barry said, just to echo that, there's really some exciting new projects as well, like the Active Wellbeing Centre, and we're working through the feasibility of that at the moment. And that could be, a really sort of regional, national level kind of project as well. So yeah, really great to have this document in place, but it's not just about the document, it's obviously about the practice that flows from that document as a result of the new strategic focus that we've got.
Kieran, would you like to add to that?
I think everything's been said generally. I think from my perspective, the gathering of the national and local data, it recognises the activity level that we've gone from and where we are at now at this moment in time, and there's been some positive movement. I think there's certainly some more positive movement that can happen across the district, and that is through these exciting community-led projects that we've now gone out to consultation on the play zones and so much and so forth, and understand, I suppose, where we sit with that particular project in question. I also think that utilising the funding opportunities that are readily available, so the swimming pool support fund, to look at to decreasing our carbon and also decreasing the cost of running our built facilities, alongside with other elements that have been mentioned in the strategy to try and sustain the facilities moving forwards for them to be financially viable, as well as getting out into the community to host numerous activities within the community. And I think the final part for me is that the key objective of the strategy, from my perspective, includes, the supporting of health improvements and enhancing the quality of life and ensuring the sustainability of the sports facilities, whilst promoting the inclusiveness of the wellbeing aspects as well. So all of the community groups that are happening, it's about trying to understand what's going on in the district at the moment and enhancing that moving forwards, not necessarily replacing it, enhancing it and developing it as well.
And just one thing to add is the importance of the learnings that we've been able to take, obviously not just from our own work in our own facilities, but the work of the local delivery pilot, and that there's a huge amount of activity that's taken place that's really kind of cutting edge and innovative in tendering as a result of having that partnership and that relationship with Active Essex. And that's been something that has been a real privilege, I think, for the district, and has meant that we've been able to think about activity and sport in a different way, and about how we can bring in communities to get involved in activity, outside of traditional sporting clubs, and in ways that have kind of, through gamification or through, pedal power, just really innovative things that have taken place. And that I think Jason, would say that this is sport and activity strategy is our kind of learning from that, and our next chapter in terms of taking forward that journey of engaging with the community in activity as well as our built facilities. So just to mention that really important point as well.
Okay, thanks. Yep.
I'm really sorry, but I have to declare a pecuniary interest. It's the Swimming Pool Support Fund was mentioned. I'm a trustee of the Brighton Sea Lido, and the Brighton Sea Lido received a grant from the Swimming Pool Support Fund for the installation of a solar power generating system. So if I could just have that recorded, thank you.
Thanks. I probably just to say that's a innovative system to be put into the swimming pool. So it's very well worth, and I'm glad you actually declared that, because that's a really, really good scheme. So, Sylvia, now it's your chance. Sorry, I was a bit previous before. So,
Come back to question.
yeah, we'll come back. We'll just finish with Active Essex, and then we'll ask the questions. Sylvia.
Okay. We have sent through a few slides just to capture some of our thoughts, but I think in listening to what's already been presented, I think I'd just like to skip through a few. So if you can move on to the second one, and then I might ask you to skip right the way to number 7. Just wanted to really just introduce ourselves as the Active Wellbeing Society, and we have been working with Active Essex for a number of years now to work on the local delivery pilot, and in particular Essex Pedal Power. So I just really wanted to share with you kind of like what our vision and mission are at the Active Wellbeing Society, and where you might have seen us in Essex. So we have been delivering Essex Pedal Power. We're also running Sunspot Cafe down in Jaywick. We do have run a number of community events through our work through Active Essex, and we are now currently working in the Heart of Greenstead project supporting Colchester. Could you skip right the way on to number 7, I think? Because, yeah, carry on. And it's the one that says Essex Pedal Power. Okay. Our reflections on the strategy, and we were asked to kind of like, read the strategy and then give our reflections on them. It's really our experience has come from learning from delivering Essex Pedal Power in Jaywick and Clacton Sands. You can see on there the kind of like the main outputs that we have delivered across Essex in the free bike scheme. But really what we have really learnt from that is that we have to go out and approach people to get involved in Essex Pedal Power. We haven't waited for them to come to us. We've had to go out to them. We've had to approach them, not wait for them to come and ask for those bikes. And then we have to meet them exactly where they are. And in many cases, there's lots more barriers that the people might have, rather than just having access to a free bike. So we do kind of like work with them to help them with their general kind of like all-round wellness and well-being, signposting them to different kind of like support from maybe accessing kind of like food and other provisions. But it's very much going out and working with them and delivering where they are and helping them to remove that barrier to physical activity. If you can move on to the next slide. So our reflections on the strategy are very much based around those learnings. And we think that within the strategy, I think there is that real kind of like encouragement to use the local environment, as has just been, presented, and actually utilising that natural environment as well as the local leisure centres and bringing people into a centre. We call them kind of wayfinding and nudges, where we kind of like nudge people into physical activity out in the community, as well as actually coming into specific locations, and kind of prompting people that, that is a very good route for a 2K walk. It might take you 20 minutes. That might be their first point in their route to activity. We're also very aware that there is that link of physical activity to those wider determinants of health, and that's where our kind of like wraparound support is very much kind of like supporting to other barriers that they might have around kind of access to food. People need to eat before they can participate in physical activity, and we found that through the work of Essex Pedal Power and helping people, to actually access some nutritious food. And in particular, what we did like in the strategy was the mention of targeting specific communities and particular groups, because again, I think that is very important to actually recognise what those specific community groups need, and sometimes finding the people that might be the least closest to embarking on that journey. I'm not going to dwell into the rest of it. I think that was, you know, we really welcome the strategy, and there was a lot of things in there that really linked into our learnings from running Essex Pedal Power and also working with Active Essex. But they were our main kind of like reflections in the report. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank you. Very comprehensive. Thank you for that. So, Karen, I know you've been involved. Is there anything you want to add, or are you?
Yeah, I'm Hayley. Karen there couldn't be here today.
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, I am sitting by the,
Oh,
by the
okay.
note. But yeah, I'm from Active Essex, work with Jason. My area is North Essex as relationship manager. And yeah, we've been involved in working alongside CBS Tendring District Council and the Alliance over the last 6 years as part of the local delivery pilot. And yeah, really supportive of the strategy in terms of how it's taken the learnings from all of the local delivery pilot and kind of put that into a strategy, as well as a delivery plan that sits alongside it. Like we said, sometimes strategies get produced and actually that can't be translated into actual action, whereas this that has something that sits beside it, which is really kind of tried to translate some of that. I think yeah, Sylvia's kind of covered some of the kind of key areas in terms of pedal power, which have been particular successes of the local delivery pilot. There have been quite a few others in terms of how we're really looking to take physical activity into the community, get people to try things that are slightly different, not your traditional approaches to what people might consider sport and physical activity, really looking at low cost and free activities, so initiatives like Park Play, where we're trying to activate community spaces with free activity for families every week, things like that that have really impacted on people in our key areas where we know and inactivity levels are highest. And things like Wheels for All as well, that sits along Essex Pedal Power, which is a particular project that is looking to support accessibility from a cycling perspective, so adapted bikes to ensure people with disabilities and long-term conditions can access cycling. So taking all of that and kind of the learnings from that has kind of really helped sort of support development of the strategy, and we've kind of had an opportunity to feed back along the way it was being developed, which was really good. So we could yeah, we could kind of support the development of the strategy from that perspective. And we enter into a period now, the local delivery pilot is kind of moving into a phase called deepening. And so again, we're working with all partners here around how we might be able to deepen some of the work that we've been able to achieve over the next 3 years from March next year. And so again, what we've been able to do is really work with partners around what is in the strategy and what potentially we might be able to draw investment to support some of the implementation of that and the activation of some of that. So there's been a few key areas that we've kind of highlighted around really supporting kind of older people's activity, around Active for Life, around kind of disability provision, around sort of expansion of things like sport for confidence, and the back to health, which has been a kind of key element to get people with long-term conditions more active. So yeah, we're working very closely with Tendring, District Council, obviously CBS Tendring, and wider partners about what more can we do over the next sort of 3 years to really drive some of those activity levels up, because we have seen positive improvements, but we know that with some more targeted work we can even do even more from that perspective as well.
Is that all? They're really comprehensive. Thanks very much. That really added, and I must admit, your enthusiasm, what you've both shown, is admirable. Jason, not to leave you out. So, did you start with that Active Essex? Because you've just got Essex County Council. So
Indeed, yes. Good evening. Good evening, members. Good evening, colleagues and partners. I suppose I'm fortunate enough to multi-hatted tonight, colleagues. So yes, I have the pleasure of being director of Active Essex, and you've heard from Hayley eloquently explaining the opportunities that we see here with this great strategy that's been presented to you this evening. I'm also part of the leadership team at Public Health at the County Council. So I think with that lens, it's probably quite important just to share with you that actually this strategy absolutely aligns to the direction of travel of not just the Essex Health and Wellbeing Board, but very much our drive around how we get a county more active using physical activity as one of those many tools. So I think that's quite important just to share that with you. And I suppose finally, appointed by government last year to sit on the Sport England board. So it was great to see that you've seen this evening that Sport England are absolutely recommending and commenting quite positively about this strategy. I think what's really quite important that what we've seen, and Hayley just described that actually, is that sport and physical activity are a means to improve socio-economic opportunities in a place. And I think what certainly colleagues in tendering have done this evening with this strategy that we've seen and commented on, it really demonstrates that actually the added value, not just from a health and wellbeing point of view, from an economic point of view, but a mental health point of view, a volunteering point of view, that sport and physical activity has got a real power and a drive to be able to do so many different things. I think what's really quite exciting is that for us and the learnings that Hayley referred to, actually, that this is not just certainly Councillor Barry's responsibility, but actually what also Mike Curran and certainly Kieran and Lee, but actually it's everyone's responsibility, because actually how we embed this across the organisation is so key. So you would have seen in the document how it links to council's priorities. Actually, there's a real opportunity to how this can work to achieve your multiple outcomes. I think that's very much the exciting thing, that how we embed this and hardwire this across what we're trying to do. I suppose there's a couple of phrases that I'll leave you with that we certainly learned, certainly in the work that, and obviously I'm privileged to work across the whole of Essex, but also have a view of also the rest of the country as well in some of the work that we're doing, that there's something about being really clear about being stubborn on the vision. And I'll refer you to your vision. Your vision says to support an increase of activity levels in tendering on a sustainable foundation to improve health outcomes and, importantly, the quality of life for local people. So that's really quite exciting. That really stubborn on what you want to do there, which I think I must commend you on, because it is about that power and that opportunity of how this agenda can improve the quality of life as well. Councillor Barry absolutely explained the fact that actually this is evolving, actually, so the importance that actually the flexibility on the detail is absolutely key. And I think for us, it's not about those predetermined solutions that people must do this exercise or this exercise, but actually how do we create that community engagement and that opportunity that actually this is not a collaboration, it's a co-ownership where we kind of own this together. And that's the great relationship we have with Sharon. I'm going to bring Sharon in, actually, if you don't mind, Chair, because actually what they do in this journey is actually how we're making sure we're connecting with the community and really understanding, actually not predetermining those solutions, but actually working with them to kind of bring that to life, Sharon. And I'll pause there, bring you in.
Thanks, Jason. Again, that was really, really positive. I think one of the things I'm taking from this already is the joined-up approach. You know, it seems to be consistent, whereas, dare I say, and sometimes it's a little bit onerous. But this has been really, really positive. And then go on to Sharon. Then, you know, CVS. So very important organisation for us in tendering. So, if you'd like to come in, Sharon.
Sorry. I'm Sharon Alexander, Chief Officer from Community Voluntary Services Tendering. Not many people might know that CVS Tendering was actually set up by Tendering District Council, as was. It was Clacton Urban District Council back in 1973, and we celebrated our 50th anniversary last year. And I'm just bringing you back to that to demonstrate to you the strong partnership that we've had with Tendering District Council over the last 50 years. And lately, or not lately, because it's about 9 years that we've been in partnership with Active Essex, delivering a whole host of activities to get people active, and the really successful Beat the Street, which was the best in the country, with the best outcomes for local people. And it ticked all the boxes in terms of getting people out, physically active, joining a group, getting involved in the community, bringing them together as a family, and getting them involved in other activities. So I think that was a really successful partnership between Tendering District Council, Active Essex, and local delivery pilot and CVS Tendering. But most of all, it was the commitment from local people, because it was the power of social media as well. In Harwich and Dovercourt, people really tune into Facebook, and we were able to get a lot of people through that. And because of all of those activities that have been so successful, it has enabled CVS Tendering to expand our activities in other areas and develop and deliver more physical activity. We've also delivered swimming, seated yoga, seated dance, lots of things for people who have health conditions and long-term health conditions and physical disabilities. It's given local people loads of opportunities, and as has been said by my colleagues here, you can't do onto people. You have to encourage people to get involved by the sheer experience and enthusiasm by everybody around you. And I think that this is a marriage actually made in heaven, because we've got all the partners together on the same page, looking to develop opportunities for physical activities and tendering. And you can't do it on your own. And it's a movement as well, because it really impacts on people's, how can I put this? If people don't strengthen their core, their core, they're more likely to have falls and more likely to go into hospital. And once they're discharged, they're more likely to be readmitted. So, you know, although we have seen on the health index that tendering is leading the way in decreasing and improving the health outcomes in the region, we have an uphill battle in terms of the people moving here or retiring, and we need to have everybody together getting people active. So I'll just leave you with the phrase, you know, there's no I in team, we have to do this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. I know you've been involved with a good few many years, because I've seen your name come up quite a few. And that's a positive. It's a positive. So well done with that. So obviously we'll now come to questions from the committee. So Chris, I think you were.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 47 of the actual report, in the little orange box, we read this: consideration should be given to options for sustainability at the council's 3 sports facilities. Then further down, consideration of commissioning a feasibility study on the future of the council's sports facilities should be considered. This should include options for sustainability and partnership working with health partners. Can we actually clarify, when you're looking at these options for sustainability, what type of options you're looking at? Because I think there is concern that in the past, when we've talked about looking at options of leisure facilities, it's usually involved them being rationalised by not being there, as places in Brightlingsea and, shall we say, Harwich in the past have proved. So could we just outline whether or not we're looking to privatise these, and can you give us an assurance that we're looking to retain these 3 centres in council ownership?
Yeah, so we're commissioning a piece of work to review the financial and wider sustainability of those 3 centres. That is in the Cabinet report as one of the first actions in the strategy, and something that we plan to come back with by the end of March. And we don't, that piece of work is going to bring forward options, and the scope is about making sure that there is long-term financial sustainability for those facilities. The scope isn't written yet, and we don't have, you know, the detail of that yet. It will be published when we go out to the market with it, and we need to be able to look at the options when they come forward, and we don't have a kind of a predetermination of what that would be. So we don't have, ahead of doing the work, a predetermination of what it would show.
Right, so just to clarify on that, what you're saying is that you haven't ruled out the possibility of privatising these 3 centres?
We don't have any plans to privatise the 3 centres.
Right.
But if we're going to do a piece of work looking at the financial sustainability of centres, we need to be able to look at those options and bring them forward to councillors as we do them. But we have no plans to privatise them.
Okay, because when you say to me you're looking at these options, that doesn't sound to me like the word, no, we're not looking to privatise. That sounds to me like I'm going to give a report to a relevant outside body or expert to write a report to look at different options, of which one of them could be privatising. And I know that these, when you're at these types of committees, it's good to come out with all this different options without actually saying yes or no. I mean, all we were looking for really was a simple assurance that this administration is not looking to privatise. Well, you know, that really is a yes or no answer, isn't it?
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. I mean, if I can speak personally, there's no intention from this administration to privatise our sports centres. It's not even on the radar. I think the notion of sustainability is ever changing, and I think what we have embraced, or what we are conscious of, is that we need to change the way we do things. You know, the fact that we still have three thriving leisure centres in this district is, I think, to be commended. And you know, our administration can't take all the credit for that, but it is quite something when when I go and speak to portfolio holders in other areas, and they may well have closed some of their centres or partially closed them or something, whatever. But at the moment, you know, we do have to be conscious of how we operate within, you know, the economic strictures that we all face. And it's, again, it's an ongoing process, but sustainability is changing. It's not just about getting people through the door. It's about taking out more activity into communities. So, you know, the sports centres or the leisure centres, we're looking to see become more community hubs that are focal points for each area, but where more activity is spread out or taken out, outreach work into communities, because people will be more active where they live. And as you mentioned, there were two centres that had their funding stopped, I think, by your administration. And, you know, I fought very strongly against that. And there are still lessons to be learned from that. But at the moment, this is something that's on paper, something that we are planning to do in the course of 2025. And obviously, whatever comes of that assessment, we will bring for discussion and consultation and take forward where necessary. But at the moment, as I say, I think we're very lucky that, you know, tendering residents are lucky to have three active leisure centres in the district, and as far as I'm concerned, that's the way I want to keep it.
Okay, thanks for that, Chris. We'll move on to Councillor Oxley.
I'm just actually looking at the statistics actually on page 25, not so much in the report, but inactive people, those who take part in less than 30 minutes of activity per week. Fairly active, those who take part 30 to 149 minutes per week. And active people, those who take part in less than 150 minutes per week. Yes, we've got a marriage here in heaven with all the people here who are engaging in all the different activities, and I applaud that. I think we've got a job in our hands to get those people out there active. I'm a very active person for my age. I do most activities every day. I also run a very, very successful youth club with 200 on our books. And those youngsters, when they come into us, they have activities. We have a fitness group on a Wednesday night, and we have a hub on a Saturday afternoon. Obviously, you're going to be looking at all of these on an ongoing basis. Outdoor gyms, I noticed recently we've got that up and running. I think we need to do more of those, getting those people out there active, because people can walk and do a bit of gym. People don't always want to go into leisure centres and do things. They like to be out. I think we're the worst area for cycleways in Essex, and I think that's one of the areas that we should be looking at. As I said, we could link up, and there are ways, because I've looked at it years ago, with a guy that was very interested in doing that. We can link up to have more cycleways. But it is all about engaging people. You can't get a person into a leisure centre if they want to be outside. But I'd also like to ask what this new post, this new manager, I know the job spec maybe is not ready yet, but what do you foresee their role in doing all this engaging? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oxley. You make some really good points about the difficulties and the challenges that we face. And I think, again, the colleagues here will testify that engagement is key, and that part of this strategy is about going out into our communities and trying to encouraging fairly sort of perhaps indirect activity to start with. We're not trying to get everybody through the doors of the nearest gym and start lifting weights, because that's I think can put people off. But it's not just about leisure. And I think the point you made about your youth groups is again very important, because I think there's a tendency to think about getting people active as getting people who are adults, slightly overweight, watching TV, demographic, fairly, mature, shall we say. I see this as trying to set patterns of behaviour at an early age, because, as you know, if you've done sport all your life, I mean, as I still play in some team sports, and you do establish those patterns early on. And I think we do need to, one of our key discussion documents, or key discussion areas, sorry, has been with local schools. And there is a clear problem where children are going from primary school to secondary school and just losing any connection with any sport and activity almost overnight. And there's real concern in the secondary schools about the levels of activity and engagement amongst that demographic, those young people. So this is an across the board strategic approach. We obviously, as I say, we want to engage with our younger residents and set those good patterns and good experiences. But we want to reach out as well to people, just companionship. We've found, looking at the research, that somebody doing a sort of a 40-minute walk 3 times a week in company can have a significant effect on reducing the onset of dementia and other mental illnesses. So we are, and we are aware of the need to engage and the difficulties that will bring. And having got the post agreed, part of the job of the new sport and activity manager will be to work with CVS, work with established groups to support and enhance what they are already doing. Because when I was doing the consultation, when we went out to local groups, we were amazed at the number of things that were already going on, and we want to support those, help with the coordination, and learn from best practice, so that if there's a group operating in Walton, we can learn from that. We can then take that to other areas with similar demographics. And I think that's a real challenge for whoever gets this new post. You talk about cycle paths and infrastructure. We are very conscious that our infrastructure in the district isn't great, particularly in terms of cycling. But we have, as part of writing the strategy, we've established an active travel group, which meets about every 6 weeks, and has got representatives from walking, running, cycling groups, swimming groups, and the idea is that again we listen to what they have to say, we listen to some of the things they say they need, and we try and support that and provide that. So a simple thing like providing a storage facility for a swimming group along the beach would encourage them to get more members and get more people active. I think there are some things that we can do fairly easily. Other things are going to take time. The cycle path's been one particular thing that needs big investment, but we've got a route mapped around Tendring, and there are a couple of pinch points, Harwich and Brightonsea, where you need to cross the river, and we're working very hard on that. So thank you. Yep.
Can I just thank the speakers for the extra bits of explanation? It's really helpful when you've got a document like this. I think it's a really exciting strategy. It's full of good ideas. The play zones particularly look really good. My question really is around the geographical location of the play zones. So they all appear to be in the east, and as a representative of people from the west, I think they could make an argument they've been left out. I know there's a point on here, bullet point 1, which looks for the garden community in the future. But also one of your conclusions is absolutely right, in that it's a spread of activity. So I'm just really looking as to why the play zones are in the east of the district, not the west. And I can picture in there, the good people of Manningtree, Mistley and Lawford will be delighted to work with you to have a play zone. So go for it.
Thank you. So I suppose the starting for the play zones was the localities in terms of the land ownership. So that was the first challenge that we came up against. So once the funding became available for the capacity fund, which is what we've managed to be successful to get, which is £25,000 to be able to put in the full application bids. As part of that, we needed to understand all of the land that was readily available to be able to build these play zones, inclusive obviously the size and the specification and the activity. So the first round has come out pretty quick. That's one thing I would say. It's moving at quick pace. Applications need to be in the next couple of weeks. From a drafted perspective. So what it meant was that we needed to identify all of TDC's land. So the TDC lands and the locations that have been identified, that was the purpose that was illustrated. It was then narrowed down to them particular locations in question that you have referred to, and that's where it kind of landed, unfortunately. That said, what I would say is that we have had open discussions with Football Foundation, and they are currently reviewing the 25-26 funding, 24-25 funding for the following year, and there could be further opportunities. So we're continuing in the background, continuing to scope out opportunities that may not be TDC's land, but may well be town, parish, and we're continuing on to have them discussions locally, so we can start that work, that piece of work behind the scenes. So the hope is that if there's more funding that becomes available, there is a hook within the strategy to continue that piece of work. There is hopefully then going to be the capacity, I suppose, by this new position as well. And the one thing I would say, just to add on the response to Councillor Roxy, is that within the position, it is all around trying to get funding to be able to do these things, because I think we've been quite open and transparent, or certainly Councillor Barry has, is that there's seed funding, but not everything within the strategy is fully funded and been able to move tomorrow. So that's the purpose. So that's how we've landed to them particular positions and how quickly, I suppose, that has happened. So hopefully that response has answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, if I can just add to that, I mean, I think your point is well made, and it is something that I am conscious of as a portfolio holder, the need to address any inequalities in provision around the district. And as we heard, we had two sports centres that were, the funding was withdrawn in Brightonsea and Harwich. And I think we did look at Manningtree, didn't we? I mean, it's certainly it's in the mix, but I think the play zones, it's not a question of, you know, just saying, right, we'll have one there, and one there. There's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done. I mean, literally, you've got to look at the site, the potential for development. Some of the sites are partially developed anyway. They may have hard standing, they may have facilities, things like electricity for lights and so on. So they would perhaps become favourites if there was to be an assessment. But we're not, you know, we're not ruling anywhere out. And what we're trying to do is prioritise the ones that I think would be perhaps easiest to deliver in terms of their current infrastructure. But where you start in literally with an open field, the actual investment and groundwork is a lot bigger. So that would then take perhaps more local consultation, more local discussion before you could come up with a clear plan. But I mean, rest assured, you know, there is no part of the district to me that is more important than the other. It's you know, the aim of this strategy is to provide a comprehensive access to sport and activity across the district.
Yeah. Hello there. Right, as you're probably not aware, but I was one of the first people to put an outside gym into an open space, and it works very well. The problem we've got is that the smaller groups like us, and I'm chairman of a child's football club, so I'm keeping people active as much as I can. But when we go to open up other activities so that we can get people off of their chairs and into exercise, it is very difficult for us to find the right person to come along and give us their time. And obviously you need, if you're going to do that sort of exercise, you need people that are absolutely, you know, okay with it. You can't get some dad from out of his house to do it because he hasn't got a clue. And we find it very difficult. I've worked with Active Ethics before, and thank you very much. But we never ever, as a small group, and we've got quite a few. I mean, I've probably got 60 to 100 children that goes through me every week, probably. Finding them activities at no cost is very difficult. So what I'm saying is, to me, if we want to get people out of their chairs, out of their children and adults, could we not target small groups and see how you can help the small groups to get people active? Because it's all very well going to sports centres and big groups and say, well, here we are. But it's the little groups. There's quite a lot of little groups around that could do with help to get people out of there on exercise. And I just wonder if you could consider that and to target smaller groups, really. And that way you will get people out with getting more exercise, rather than just targeting the big groups. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think that is embedded in the strategy, Councillor Davidson, and I think again, looking, all the partners here are very experienced and very skilled in working with small groups and getting results, particularly, you know, CVS and Active Essex. And I see our role in some ways as coordinating and assisting their efforts and adding to their efforts across the district. And I mean, outreach into community centres and village halls and working with small groups is for me a key part of this approach. And it depends on the assessment of need, and I think that the post holder, the the activities and sport manager will be charged with doing the assessment of what's around and working with partners to promote activities on whatever scale is necessary. It could be, half a dozen people just walking along the seafront, or it could be 30 people playing walking football. I mean, it's an open book as far as I'm concerned in terms of where we go with this.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I quite agree. But what I'm saying is, it's like I live in I live in Parkson, and that's where all my activities go ahead. We never get approached. We never get asked. We never get asked if there's any. Activities has done a couple of days over the park that I run, and yeah, it's good. But if we're looking, I'm trying to say is if we are looking to get to the core of people, it's the sort of organisation, that's the places where they're a deprived area where we've got a target. Not just everywhere else, and we don't get targeted. We've never, as I said, we applied to Active Essex and we got a fund one day, but that's the only day we ever had, or 2 days. And I'm saying that a lot of organisations there don't know you exist. But unless they get to know, it's never going to happen.
Well, hi, thank you, and I really appreciate your quite absolutely spot on question in the sense that we recognise this table here cannot do it alone, and absolutely we need. And we've come up with a phrase actually, and I'd like to think that your group that you talk about would absolutely, hopefully align to this, what we call locally trusted organisations. So we call them LTOs, locally trusted organisations that have that trust in the community, which you clearly have, so I'm really pleased to hear that. And actually, how do we create that capacity and capability to support you to deliver where we can't get to because you're trusted in that space? And so I think there's certainly something that certainly the team, not just the Active Wellbeing Society, but certainly Sharon from the CVS and us at Active Essex, that how do we build that capability and capacity of your groups? So is that volunteer training? Is that support in writing funding bids? Because obviously one of the things that we found absolutely is that actually that there is an art to writing applications, and we've got courses and support that we can help people to do that. There's also things such as the DBS checks, the volunteer management plans, all those things I guess you probably got in place, but we realise that there's a need to support groups and clubs within that. And so I think there's definitely a support arm that we've got that we can, through this strategy, enhance and support further to make sure we're supporting those groups at a local level.
Yeah, thanks for that. I understand that because I work very closely with CVS and they are a wonderful group and they do help a lot of people. But all I'm saying is, unless we get to the smaller groups that don't even know about CVS, it's not going to happen. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I know there are people out there. I know there's help there to write application forms, but people do not know there's application forms to be filled in because there's never anything out there to tell them. That's all. Anyway, thanks.
Thanks very much. Anybody else? Any other questions? I'll just make a couple of comments. Obviously, the strategy is a weighty document, and obviously I appreciate that it's a working document. There's lots of timescales on it as well. The area I'm a little bit concerned with is with the partnership with schools, and I'm sure it's been mentioned in the strategy. But it's come to my notice that the charges, what schools are charging, for instance, they're gone from a rate for hiring a football pitch, and now they're charging for like 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after. So when you have your discussions with the schools about sort of cooperation and that, maybe it's something that you could look into and take on board, and maybe we could twist somebody's arm.
Yeah, well, I'm not engaging in arm wrestling with the schools, but that isn't. I don't think that's entirely true because I just recently booked 10 weeks on a football pitch, and you book for the 90 minutes. They say they don't want you there on site more than 15 minutes before, and they certainly want you off at the end of your period, because I think what was happening, people were turning up and starting early and finishing late and only paying for the 90 minutes. So I think certainly you don't pay for an extra half hour, as I understand it anyway. But in terms of the dialogue with the schools, it is important, and we are aware that there isn't a one-stop shop to discuss things with them, as there used to be with the county council. You've got, I think, is it five trusts? Certainly at secondary level, we have 5 school trusts who all have different economic levels and different personnel that you have to deal with. So again, I think that's a challenge strategically and operationally for us to engage with them to improve access for our partners to get in there. And just in terms of getting the message out, one of the aspects of the strategy with the sport and activity manager is to try and identify people who may benefit from training or from coach qualifications, something like that, or even just voluntary training, so that they can then engage on a wider scale with their communities. So I think the potential is there. I certainly think that you've heard from all the people along this table that the motivation is there, and certainly I think the skills and experience is there. So I would be very optimistic that we will be delivering some of the key aspects of this strategy over the next 3 to 4 years, and that we will have some critical evaluation of the strategy undertaken by the University of Essex, so that hopefully we will be able to demonstrate that there is evidence to support what we've done.
So that, and the last point is that I think this committee can help with an input into the strategy, and also going forward. We've got 3 task and finish groups, and we talk about reaching out to communities and that. So we're doing a task and finish on crime and disorder, which is family violence and abuse. So I think there's a bit of mileage there to be able to have a joined up approach with families when that is the case. We've got joint working with parish and town councils for opportunities for mutually beneficial collaboration, and also youth provision for school-aged children outside of school, and then obviously the opportunity for improvements to the mental health and reduced antisocial behaviour that sort of outreach could help with. So I'm sure as we do those task and finish, Terry is doing the schools, I'm doing the town councils, and Carrie, who's no longer, is not here tonight, is going to do the family violence and the crime and disorder. So yeah, as I say, we will do reports and we will feed that into the system, if you like. So thanks very much. I think it's been a really positive meeting for us, and maybe there is just one question to ask at the end. Everything what's been done and discussed and presented tonight, what do we see as success in 2028? Because as I say, it's been a really weighty report, and there's a lot of incentives and things going on. But maybe if you could pick out one of them, which is quite difficult, what would you class as the success of in 2028 at the end of this strategy?
Well, I think that there will be more availability of access to activity of whatever level, from indirect to direct to organised activity. than there currently is. I think one of the things that hasn't been mentioned is about communication, and that one of the things that we're hoping to deliver as part of the strategy is a platform where people can find out what's going on in their neighbourhoods and in their areas, and they can sign up, join up, go along, see what's happening. We're hoping to promote engagement through a series of taster sessions in various localities. I think the indices and the indicators are there, and as you see, the ones that we have, the headline figures, are not great. We're below national average, and in some cases regional averages. So I think for me, success would be seeing those move in the right direction, but also in 2 or 3 years' time, being able to say, go into each community and say, look, there's a whole range of things here. You can't force people to be active. All you can do is make the offer and then provide the platform for them to become engaged. So to me, that would be a level of success across the district. So in 3 years' time, people can look round in where they live, and there will be opportunities, and there will be things that they can access.
Sorry, just a last minute thing. I think it's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed all of the presentations. I wanted to just pick up on what you just said, Mick, about you know, taster sessions and all that sort of business. Is there a forum where all of you folks are going to get together and sort of be able to present that in a really, really simple and basic manner? Because for me, I'm not a big Facebook fan. I'm not a big social media fan. I do read the local paper, but I think I get more engaged with something actually happening on my doorstep, like Beat the Street. Part of the slimming group that I'm part of, they just were falling over each other to beat each other. But for me, this is all great, but the communication strategy to people that just don't engage with Facebook or their local newspaper, there is always a little bit of a gap there, because quite frankly, I often think, I didn't know about that. How are we going to break down that barrier? Because all of this is absolutely awesome and amazing, but unless we can talk to people, unless there is a strategy from the wider community and the wider partnership, this is not going to achieve the results that it could stroke should. I do feel that is a very basic form of communication with people that we, believe me, I mean this kindly and with care, we miss some of that because it's sometimes a bit highfalutin. This is something that not many people would read. I don't know how you're going to get to people that don't do Facebook. Just is there just a really basic plan where all of your really hard work just hits people in the face? I mean, not literally, but and gets them as engaged as I feel engaged today, without the benefit of sitting here with you guys, because it is an absolute fundamental aspect of this being a success. How are you guys going to do that?
Yeah, just coming in on that. So we've been trialling over the last couple of years a role called Community Connectors, and it's people in the community that are from the community that can do that piece, going out to groups actually that don't do physical activity, speaking to people about what they would like to try, and then doing that connection piece around what's already out there, or understanding actually this doesn't exist, so actually we need to work out what we can put in place to support those needs. So we have a role in Harwich that's been really successful, hosted by CVS Tendring, and we're hoping, again, with our deepening plans to continue that role. And we've recently started another role covering kind of Clacton, Jaywick, Walton as well. That's only been in post in the last sort of month or so. And so again, hosted by CVS Tendring, that we're hoping to provide that guidance and that learning from Harwich across to the other areas. Yeah, to do that connection piece, because we know that just putting stuff in traditional media sources is not going to reach people on the ground. So actually having that physical presence is going to be really important to achieving some of this strategy. So that will all be weaved into this as well, making sure that those roles are aware of all the developments of this work and how they can communicate that best to the community. And we have a number of community connectors across Essex as well, and they're all learning from each other. Actually, this approach really works well. This approach maybe doesn't work so well. So they've been developing different engagement approaches to be able to reach the audiences that we want to impact on most. So I think that those two roles are specifically going to be really important, working alongside the community sport and activity manager as well, making sure that all of those roles are joined up and that information can flow in different ways to reach the people we need to be reaching.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up actually, because I think the other way is the task and finish group with the parish and town councils. You're on, you're on it. So we can actually progress that through the task and finish. Councillor.
Yeah. No, I think it's obviously something that we have discussed as part of the strategic delivery. How do you engage with people? And there are a variety of ways, and say not everybody does social media, but people are naturally curious. People do access the internet for information. So if you don't have to be on Facebook to find out what's on at the local cinema, or how you'll go to a bowling alley, or what time things are open. So we aim to put in to establish a really comprehensive digital platform that is up to date and tells people everything that's going on in their areas. And it will obviously require community involvement to keep it up to date. But if so, assuming that you do have some access with somebody to the internet, because I'm not a great fan of social media, but I know we use the internet. You go shopping, you do like restaurant. What time's that on? So we'll be looking to establish a platform that has a whole comprehensive range of information about anything from a gardening club to a walking club to a team sport, a baseball team that's establishing itself. So you can go through. It'd be quite easy. I think our example is shown. It's quite easy to navigate, and it is something that we feel is part of the thing. It's not part of the delivery. It's not the whole answer. And obviously, we will learn from our partners' experiences as to how they've engaged and got people active. And I think one of the things is the taster sessions. We would like to go out to, say, a community centre and say there are 4 or 5 sports or other activities coming along, putting on a showcase for you to come and see and observe. And you can publicise that with posters around town and parish councils. There might be something that the task and finish group could take on as to what role they play in supporting the delivery of this strategy. And you've got to use all means possible. There isn't just a one-stop shop here. There's not just social media. People don't get newspapers as easily as they used to. And we have to embrace anything we can to get things going.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's a really good idea to have a group, a forum, to bring all the partners together. And secondly, you said you don't know about everything that's going on in the area. In our experience, people don't find out about CVST unless they need something from us. So it's only when you need a service that you do your research and talk to people, and word of mouth is very strong. We have hit on the secret formula, and that is when people become beneficiaries, service users, they're not owning the activity. But gradually, we will encourage people to become volunteers. And we've got 19,000 people on our database, which includes all the people that we provide social prescribing services to and signpost to physical activity. So one of the objectives of that is anybody that comes to us that has been signposted from a medical centre, we will try first and foremost to try and get them active. So I think it's various ways. It's word of mouth. It's being connected already in a group for that group to share with their members, to encourage people to become volunteers, because it's only when people become volunteers and own the activity that they learn about all the other activities. And you're absolutely right. People only want things on their doorstep, and you have to make it easy for people and cheap and preferably free.
I was only going to add by saying within the strategy, there's a detailed section around, I suppose, the marketing aspect. So there's going to be a detailed marketing plan that will be hosted, a whole range of things that, you know, our colleagues have mentioned today that we can link into, but also going one step further back and understanding what the brand is, what is the brand identity, because we're talking about, you know, different things and we're shifting our movement. So we've gone from, you know, activity being in built facilities and then shifting out into the community, and also having a stronger partnership than we've ever had before with our partners and also with our fellow colleagues. So it's also looking at that brand identity before we actually start putting that out in there, so people can start linking things back with that golden thread. So if they do want to find a facility, then there's an option to, but if they want to find it in the community, there is also that option to do so. So a part of this brief, I suppose, and a part of this scope is that branding aspect as well. It's just a mention, and the marketing detailed within the strategy.
D.
Yeah, and I was going to end up by saying just talk to your friends, talk to your neighbours. You know, that's how it works. It's the word of mouth, isn't it? That's how the communication gets out there. Someone sees it on Facebook, and then it kind of gets out in the community. And I think that's brilliant. And just hearing tonight the amount of involvement that everyone here has already got, not just on this side of the table, but, you know, around the table, has been really, really brilliant. So
Thanks, Lily. So we've had a really good session of presentations and discussions, and also we've had an update from Sport England as well, which has got 4 points there, which I'm sure will go into the strategy and be compared with the strategy. Is there anything else anybody on the top table there would like to add? Or, well, I'd just like to thank you for your participation, for your attendance, and I'm sure we will have you back at some time and to further discuss. So thanks very much. Safe journey home. You're dismissed. Yeah. We'll just wait, give Anne a couple of seconds. So, go back to item Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Item 5.
Chairman, you just need to conclude item 6, and are you going to submit any recommendations? I think you were indicating to the committee that the Sport England proposals did set out that certainly for the west of the area, that in relation to the Garden Community Project, perhaps the strategy should be looking more at active environments rather than identifying sports facilities as such. The second bullet point is about Section 106 agreements and the extent, as it says, that they've understood that the council hasn't been consistently good at securing Section 106 agreements for funding for sport for major residential developments, and that taking that forward would be obviously a means by which certain funding could be provided for sports going forward. The active design principles for new developments would also try and mean that I was going to say the huge amount of housing that the district has got to take, but that would probably be entering the political field, so I'll avoid using that term, and just where there are major developments happening across the district, that those active design principles should help individuals be more active. And also the final one there is about sort of improving the carbon footprint for those buildings which are new or refurbished. So there's potentially 4 recommendations that you could submit to say those are supported by Sport England and something that they would encourage the cabinet to press ahead with in any review, interim update or whatever form to the strategy or policy. Chairman.
Chris, yes.
I mean, whilst I like all these wonderful documents with all these great aspirations that dovetail into various strategies, why don't we just put forward some very, very simple proposals that we can actually do now, which will actually tie into this? Because in the same way that we have a jobs fair, where employers come along and showcase their business, why don't we have a sports fair where different clubs come along and showcase what they actually do? Then that way, if you want to come along, you can come along one Saturday morning or whenever, preferably on a weekend. You can talk to the different organisations. They can have information set out. If you like what you see, you can arrange to go along there and join in for a taster session. And that could be open to everybody from carpet bowls to football to rugby to whatever. And it's very simple to do. We've got the building, we've got the connections, we can invite people that are from existing sports facilities to come along. The other thing is, why don't we look in the same way we've got a levelling up committee for the town centre, where we invite local business people to be the main drivers. Why don't we do a similar sort of thing with sports? Well, we have a sports council or a sports committee where local individuals that are linked up to sports clubs come along once every 6 months and actually drive the direction of sports in the district. So people that are involved in athletics, football, whatever, come along with one organisation and say to the council, look, you've got a sports strategy, we're doing it, this is what we need, this is where we need the help. And finally, the other thing, Ian very helpfully last night sent along his local update. Now in that there was a film, which was about 6 minutes long. And I think it was on crime and disorder and vulnerability. Now what was very good about that is you could do a similar sort of thing on sports, where you could have somebody talking about sports in the district, engaging with the different sports, showing the different sports in action. You could put it on the web or YouTube, and you've got that digital impact straight away. And there are 3 simple things that we can do now, in-house, using our own facilities, that actually make this from more than a high-level strategic document into something that's alive and active and says, we're taking this seriously, let's drive it forward. Because otherwise you're going to be lost on some strategy, waiting for somebody from Essex to come up with another wonderful idea. And in 4 years' time, we're going to be looking at another weighty document with lots of lovely pictures and still nothing's happening. And finally, which is my biggest bugbear, when we do the next strategy, please, 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 can we have pictures of different people doing sports rather than just one individual on his bike now?
I think you have made that point previously. And the only thing I would say is I believe in the strategy there is something similar to having like a sports fair, but it wasn't described as a sports fair, but it did.
From this committee,
Yeah.
say no.
Yeah.
Or they put it in the next strategy.
Yeah. Done.
The word sport is going to put people off. And I honestly think Chris is right. This is wonderful, and I said that before. The strategies and all that, they're just documents. I think if we had one thing that we could hitch ourselves onto, say for instance, next year a activity fair, whether it would be some small ones around the district, Harwich, Clacton, wherever, but then we've got a really tangible thing to talk to people about. So it's all very well saying, you know, this is word of mouth, blah, blah. We could turn around to our people now and go, you need to look out for the activity fair that's coming next year. It's gonna set out some taster sessions, because we actually haven't got anything to say right at the moment. We've got a document which is fantastic. We've got all this wonderful partnership work, but we haven't got anything to actually say. But if I could say to all my little groups that I know, well, there's going to be an activity fair, you know, think about what it is that you kind of want, where would you want it to be? That's a really good hook for the parish and town councils.
It's like Bill saying, isn't it? Nobody's been down there to see what's happening down there. Nobody's seen what I've been doing. You know, having those areas coming into a hub, or somebody going out to gather all his up, I think that would be, to me, more.
It's a quick win.
So
it's something to be shown. Isn't it?
So taking about the hubs, if you like. So the hubs should be in. I'll come back to the to the task and finish group where we're going to go to councils, parish councils. Then really that should be something all parish councils that should be doing with with the support of Tenbury. Maybe they're looking for the support of town and parish councillors. Maybe it should be the other way around. If the town and parish councillors can do that, with their own communication, and they can do like the open space and put on the different sports and that, then maybe that's another way of communicating. And then we can come on to the activity day, if you like. Yeah.
You need to do it. If you did, for example, a central one, for example, in Clacton,
in
the town hall, because we've done job centre fairs now, and we know that basically it works. Then that then allows you then to take the concept out, doesn't it? So, for example, you could use the Colburn Centre in Walton because it's a big venue. You've got various, you could take it around the district. And it's something positive that we're doing as a council that is actually saying, well, we're not just staying in leisure centres, we're promoting this. So providing you've got a hall, then away you go.
It's a weighted report, and you have to read it. And so what we're saying is then that we can actually support the strategy by doing exactly what we've just said. And if we're all in agreement with that, then we'll put that forward as recommendations. Yeah.
Say, out of this strategy, which may or may not come to fruition for another 4 years or 3 years or whatever, we actually have this event. And from that event, we're hoping that we could do smaller events where, local groups can come and showcase what they do. First of all, they get their foot in the door. Secondly, it would be that whole, word of mouth thing. All the running club people have got kids and everything like that in Harwich. They'd turn out, they'd show, they'd give a session. They might have a session along the seafront, and then maybe the hockey team could come out that sort of just really dynamic day where Tendring District Council could take a huge amount of kudos and this strategy would be almost launched, if you like, with a real thing that's actually happening on the ground. Call it an activity roadshow or whatever you want to call it, but let's have it ready to go. Something that's not going to cost a huge amount of money, because obviously that's a problem, but something, an event to hang this on and to get on talking about, I guess.
Not to come back and say in 3 years' time, what was it? The words were, I wrote it down. 3 years' time, more availability.
Yeah.
Well,
What we did in my we've done like a sports jamboree on the recreation ground. So we had all the sports involved, and that was, in actual fact, a great success. Yeah, I understand that. But at the end of the day, though, as well, this is where we've got to get to the town and parish councillors as well, because as we say, you can't expect things. It's got to be coordinated amongst the two councils. And this is where I think the task and finish for the town council is beneficial activities. Well, this is it. I agree. But on the first task and finish meeting on that, we're going to go to T-Delk first, aren't we? Yep. We could float the idea there, and then get their support, and then we could go to for the strategy with a plan. Yeah.
I'm drawing breath, which is the equivalent. It's the equivalent of a mechanic sort of sucking through their teeth, I think. But we have to remember that overview and scrutiny is exactly that. It's there to do overview and scrutiny. It's for the executive to implement these things. So talking to TDALC about what might work or might not work, or suggestions, are all great, but ultimately that's got to come back to the executive to then implement. So we shouldn't step over into that role. All I wanted to say is I think you've got the three. We've got the four suggestions from Sport England, but you've also got the further three that Chris has articulated about the showcase, activities fair, roadshow, jamboree, call it what you will, across the district, but starting in 2025, some form of activities council that would meet to help direct the sports or activities across the district. The development of a sports or activities promotion video. And I don't know whether from the conversation earlier you wanted to add another one, which was picking up the issues of the play zones, that perhaps there should be a development of further proposals for more play zones, including in sites in the west of the district, to then be implemented as and when funding becomes available, because that was there was questioning, there was answers, and that seemed to indicate that perhaps that was an opportunity to develop further play zones, and that potentially further funding could be coming available down the line. And having the one thing that this strategy does have is a range of projects, a range of schemes that are sat there waiting for funding, and the play zones could be joining that, but developed for specific sites, so that you do that work with the town and parish councils to identify potential sites. You work through what might be necessary, and then it's sat there waiting for that funding to become available, rather than funding becomes available and you've got to spend it in 6 months, and you're in a hiding to nothing to do that where it's needed in relation to what we've got at the moment. So you've got the three that I've read out that Chris sort of put forward, I think, and the fourth one about the play zones. I don't know whether that's something that the committee want to press ahead with? Chairman.
I couldn't have put it better myself. I think.
I'm getting the feeling that they do, Chairman.
Yeah, no. I'm just trying to think the analogy bit. No, strategy. No, I think what it is. I think a tragedy strategy. Now, what it is. What it is Keith is Jiminy Cricket, and he's on our shoulder, on my shoulder, and saying, "Hang on a minute, can you just my conscience."
I think you should concern anybody. If I'm a conscience, then that's a really dangerous position to be in.
Anyway, right, okay, we've got that then.
Yes, Chairman. I think just if there could just be that accord that you're going to go ahead with the Sport England and the three proposals from Chris and the one that I read out about play zones.
Yeah. Chris?
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. Can we request that the feasibility study on the future of the leisure centres comes back to either this committee or a relevant committee, preferably prior to the executive looking at it?
You most certainly can, and that seems a very sensible proposal for overview and scrutiny to the appropriate overview and scrutiny committee. I think is all we need to put in there, and then we can work that out in due course.
So
we will strategise about that.
I will never strategise about anything.
Anyway, I think we've just got to on recommendations on the. Can I move now to the work? Good. Okay. So, we now go to page 12, which is the membership. So we've got the membership of all the task and finish groups, and also in addition. Councillor Doyle has said she would be prepared to chair the crime disorder task and finish group, and Councillor Dobson or Davidson would like to go on to the youth provision. That is right. Yeah, the youth provision, and also So that's.
So if the report can be read as on page 12, it says crime and disorder, that Councillor Carrie Doyle will be the chair or chairman of that group, just so that we can press ahead with those arrangements. The other two have effectively through tonight's meeting have selected their chairman. So the joint working with parish councils, as Councillor Steady has said, the chairman for that will be himself, and for the youth provision, Councillor Barrett will be the chairman of that. So we just didn't have a chairman for the crime and disorder one. Councillor Doyle said she would be happy to take on that role. So if you're happy, then let's formulate that as part of the decision this evening. During actually preparations for this evening's meeting, Councillor Davidson said, well, he would be happy to serve and bring the information he's got about his work with young people to that youth provision one. So again, it would just be expanding that membership from what's recorded in the papers to include Councillor Davidson. There's a potential of just also noting that that youth provision one, the intention would be for an initial meeting this side of Christmas, but very much just an initial one to try and set the work of that task and finish group ready for 2025, so that's the three things I think we just wanted to particularly make sure were picked up.
Yeah.
Then I think it's just more generally, there was in the preparations for this evening meetings, members of this committee have reference the success that I think happened last year of several external opportunities to go on meetings or site visits and the like, and just trying to pursue those into this year, particularly on the crime and disorder element, because you've not got a specific all-encompassing matter on your work programme, and yet it's important. You have the crime and disorder role for this committee, so for this council, sorry, and so some of the bits and pieces from last year that haven't been implemented. So attendance at the Neighbourhood Watch group. If we can secure that again, that I think was successful, wasn't it, Graham?
Yeah, I think the idea on these informal meetings is that we will invite. Obviously, everybody will get an invite, but even if there's only 2 or 3 go, then we're keeping that contact, because obviously there was other things about the National Farmers Union where we're going to go.
Yeah.
We were going to do the Councillor Fairley said that we could go to her farm, and we
So
could
looking
then
at rural crime and,
Yeah.
and some of the stuff. I mean, we hear about GPS technology, and that's where burglaries are happening, particularly in rural. But it's about talking to individuals with real life experiences. And I think the NFU representative last year was happy to arrange that. And as you say, Councillor Fairley also indicated that she would help facilitate that. So that's something. And also going and seeing the traffic police, which I think will or soon be at either Kirby or Thorpe, isn't it, Lasoken? And also perhaps looking at the Community Speed Watch, which is transferred from the police to the fire and rescue service, but nevertheless just trying to talk to, again, not necessarily those organisations, but talking to those on the ground that are involved in community speed watch activities to see what the obstacles are, see how successful it is, see what can be done, and what potentially might be recommendations coming forward.
Yeah, I think in many respects, whilst it's not, call it low-level meetings, but it's just to keep it live, because we've made those initial contacts with people. We've done the tour of the police station, and then we went to Neighbourhood Watch, so we've made those contacts, and that will come in, and that fits in with our crime and disorder panel, which we are the crime and disorder committee. So whilst it won't be part of a task of Finish Group as such, we can then feed the information we glean from those meetings when we come to our crime and disorder committee meeting. So it just keeps it alive all the time. Sorry, Daniel.
No, all I was going to say was those of us that work do sometimes kind of in the respect that quite often it's difficult to get to the meeting. So if the chair could just bear in mind, why does it keep turning itself on? Is it because I'm chatting? That's scary. Every word. Anyway, if we could just be really mindful about the people that do work, about sort of times and 11 o'clock in the morning is absolutely awful for anybody that works. It's just not possible. So sort of afternoons, or even considering weekends, even if it was not a formal meeting, it was something that was informal. The police, let's face it, work at the weekends. They might be able to extend their invitation to us to be part of whatever it is that they're doing at various times rather than just a very set time, if that could just be considered going forward, because it's ever so frustrating, certainly from my point of view, that I want to be doing something and I want to get involved and my boss is going, don't think so, you're supposed to be cooking scones, love, and that sort of stuff. And it is, it's quite frustrating. Yeah, just a considerate balance, that would be grand. Thank you, Chair.
Finally, there is a reference on page 14 to the Coastal Communities Centre of the University of Essex, and that we are hopeful. Dr. Murray, I saw on Friday of last week, and she did indicate that she knew she was outstanding an offer to the committee to go and see the work of the Coastal Community Centre in Essex University, or University of Essex, I should say. And so I'm hopeful that we'll see some activity on that pretty soon.
Because we said we would go to the university because they are a training university for dentists and hygienists, etc. So there'll be two. I think what with the coastal community one as well, I think there'll be two sort of good meaty subjects to get into. Are we done?
We are, Chairman. If we could just seek approval for the recommendations, which is to note the work programme, but we're going to note it with the additional decisions that effectively we've been discussing.
Fine. Thank you. Thank you for your attendance and your participation.
And your next meeting is on the 14th of January, and you will be looking at the work of the executive in respect of funding for outside bodies, and gap analysis and all of that.
That was very interesting, actually. Okay, thank you very much.